Welcome to our weekly Q&A show where we answer submitted questions live on YouTube on Tuesdays at 2 p.m.
Hi, and welcome to our Tuesday live show we're doing on Thursday. And this is a show I've tried to do it every Tuesday, although my schedule's been really tough lately. And so I'm doing it this Thursday, and maybe we'll do it different days of the week moving forward. But where I take questions that have been asked of me during the previous couple weeks or week or whatever, and answer them live on YouTube. And the reason I do this is because I do get a number of Instagram messages or emails where people ask me questions that are not simple to answer. They're complicated. They depend on a lot of nuance, and I may not even have a good answer. And so the best chance I have to answer it is to invite the people to ask the questions, let them know the show exists, that I will be live. They can interact with me answering the question, or they can just watch it later. And because some of the questions are hard, I also ask the viewers to answer as well, because I may have an answer, but it may not be the right answer or the answer you want. So this is my best attempt to answer questions I get throughout the week live on YouTube. And it's kind of fun for me. Writing big, long, complicated emails back and forth is not fun for me. I do enough emailing in my career where this is fun. So hopefully those of you watching get some out of it. And again, I ask anybody who's watching to help answer the questions in the comment. So the first one is about stepping stones to class 4 and which rivers are a great upgrade into class 4 rowing, especially from the Clackamas. And the Clackamas is a wonderful river to practice on. And I think, first of all, the thing at the end says with decent access for an oar boat. That's a key point, because oar boats kind of a lot of times need a trailer and like a nice ramp down to them. And that really limits where you can go boating. For me, like I'm used to lowering a boat off a cliff or carrying it a couple hundred feet. And so I've just realized that that's just part of it. And I have physical fitness to do that, and I have the skills. But if you can't lower your boat down a cliff, that really kind of limits where you can go, unfortunately. And so you need boat ramps. And I want to share, I actually wrote a blog about this a few years ago. Somebody had this question from me a while ago, and I wrote a blog post about it. I'll make it bigger here. And it's just a progression specific to the Northwest. There's a website, Whitewater Guidebook, that I started, and we continue to add content to, where I did a progression of what I think is the best Northwest rafting progression. And I think this is up for debate what the order is, right? I'm trying to go from most to easiest to hardest, but you could debate what this is. And so the person asked the question, said he's starting in the upper Clackamas and wants to move up. Well, to me, the Hood River, either Dita Tucker or the upper Clackamas below it, or the lower Hood, it is a good, like similar to upper Clackamas and great place to practice. So the Hood River is where I live. The only issue with the Hood is access. You're going to probably have to lower your boats off cliffs. So access is not that good on the Hood River, but it's a great place to practice skills. And it's why we do a lot of our class 4 skill classes out here. And next to me is the lower white salmon, or I call it the narrow sometimes. It's not super hard, maybe a little bit easier than the upper Clackamas, but it's different, and it has a portage, which makes it challenging, and it's a good thing to practice. North Umpqua is great. The middle white salmon, I think, is more difficult than upper Clackamas. It's different for sure. Going back to lower white salmon, takeout is carrying it up a hill, so it's a little brutal. If you can't carry your raft up a hill, or your oar boat's heavy. If you have like coolers and dry boxes and a bazillion things you bring with you, that's not going to be the right trip for you. If you have like a pretty light boat and frame, you could probably get your boat up at takeout on the lower white salmon. The middle white salmon, it's the put-in's tricky. There's a boat ramp. You have to have some physical fitness and some ability to fiddle with your boat. Again, if your oar boat has like a massive frame and a bunch of stuff, that's not going to be the trip for you. The upper Klickitat's next. It's kind of a ways out. It's a bit of a drive out, but it's an amazing trip, a great place to practice. Really continuous whitewater. And so I would definitely urge you going there. You'll see the Malalas next. Also awesome. Pretty easy access. Next is West Fork of the Hood. It's a great step up from all of these. I would say actually all of these between like Lower Hood and Malala are all about the same range of difficulty. They're just different, and I think different is healthy. The West Fork of the Hood is the first kind of step up from all that, and it's awesome, but the access is awful. This is the toughest of the bunch in terms of like getting your boat, getting to put in's a little tricky, but the takeout is brutal. And there's portage, sometimes two, depending on the flow. So if access matters, the West Fork isn't the best. Next is the Illinois. And I think the Illinois is it's a kind of a leap up from the West Fork to the Illinois. It's kind of a big jump up there, even. And I think this is where a lot of people want to go, but it's another big step up. I think the Upper Klamath is also a little more difficult than Illinois. Probably easy. Depends on who you are. I mean, Greenwall on the Illinois is harder than anything on the Upper Klamath. And so technically the Illinois is harder, but I think the Upper Klamath has some consequences that are kind of nasty, and it's a lot of whitewater. Anyway, the Upper Klamath is a great upper level one to practice on. And the wind, which, is maybe actually easier than the Illinois, depending on the flow. The high water wind could be easier than low water Illinois. But for me, the wind is my training ground. That's where I practice as much as I can to do more difficult stuff. And I didn't put more difficult stuff on here because, that's class 5 stuff and gnarly stuff. And I don't think most people, if you want to do that kind of stuff, you know what it is. So hopefully that answers that question. And this blog post, I think, just Google like whitewater guidebook rowers progression, and you'll find that blog post. So I'm by myself today. I'm kind of managing the talking and the behind the scenes stuff right now. So sorry if I'm a little bit slow, kind of open things back up here. And there's a few comments. Let's get to comments. Man, probably some good ones. Upper K, barely Oregon. The Upper K is mostly in Oregon. Yeah, it's an Oregon River. I mean, it crosses the Oregon-California boundary. Yeah. Oh, the Smith is great. I mean, it's technically California. So I'm not sure if I call it Northwest, but that opens up a whole can of worms. If you're gonna go down to the Smith in Northern California, I would say for like easy class 4, upper North Fork Smith is like a classic class 4 run. I'd put in that like West Fork of the Hood thing. And then the gorges on the South Fork in Oregon Hole Gorge, I'd call a solid 4+, but super depending on flows. They can be a little easier at the right flow, but they can be class 5 for sure, depending on flow. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, the Smith is a mecca. There's stuff everywhere, but it's super flow dependent. You can't just show up and hope it works out. Oh yeah, Sean. I mean, there's so much to do up here in Oregon and Washington. And California, if you're willing to go to California to practice class 4 rowing, there's the Tuolumne, the Merced, the Kern. There's a lot in California. Up on the Cal Salmon, the Butler section. If you get into the Cal Salmon and the Trinity, that opens up so many things. But up in the Northwest, yeah, cool. And Ken, I think we're getting to your question here in a second, Ken. So if I don't comment again, I think I have your question in this list. Next is a question about Sawyer polecats and asking if other companies' blades fit the polecats. I've never used other Cataract or Carlisle blades with a Sawyer shaft, but from my understanding, the normal shaft, which they call the S size, which I think stands for small, but I think they call it, I think it's S for standard. So it'll say like MXS is standard, not small, but it used to be small. I think that fits all of them, right? So I think if you get an MXS, it fits all the blade sizes. When I buy them, I get the larger diameter, the MXL. I think the L stands for large. And so you just got to be careful you get the right one. And so when you call Sawyer to buy them, just make sure you're getting the right one. And Sawyer can tell you, just call Sawyer. I guess the answer to questions, I know a lot about Sawyers. I'm pretty sure I'm right here, but I would just call Sawyer and then just buy them from them. Like that would be the way to go. I'm balling on a budget. Yeah, that's kind of a thing. I would not go with Cataract or Carlisle blades. Sawyer makes a blade called the Duramax, and I think it's it's not that durable and it's not that max. I'm not sure why they call it Duramax, but it's a good blade. It's not going to last forever, but it's affordable. So I would get the Polecats with the Duramaxes if you're on a budget. I think matching it with Cataract or Carlisle blades is just asking for trouble personally, but whatever you want to do. If you already have those blades, then Polecats should match them. But again, Sawyer can answer that question. And then I think this is the question Ken you had. The opinion of value of putting a inflatable self-bathing floor in an old Avon Pro bucket boat versus buying a new raft. I would buy a new raft. Like if those are my choices, I think I've seen you can putting a self-bathing floor in an old Avon sounds really hard. And it sounds like things could go wrong. So I mean, if you're on a budget and you're like, I can't afford a new raft, I think it's better than nothing. But an old Avon, we're talking about 20-plus-year-old boat. They're boats that are made really well. That's the old Avons are the best raft material ever made. Nothing like that is even made anymore. You couldn't even get that quality of Avon anymore. So that old Avon's probably a great boat, but it's also 20 years old or more. I mean, I was using boats from the 90s. And I don't know if I would want a boat 25 years old. I mean, it's inevitably going to have a problem. And then putting a self-bathing floor in sounds like you're just getting complicated. So if you can afford a new raft, I would get a new raft. I'd say the answer to all my questions about which raft should I buy, what should I do, are you get what you pay for. So that's the answer that is the answer to every question about rafts. So the more expensive the raft is, the better it's going to be. The more you spend, the better it's going to be. Unless, I can't think of an exception to that. So by like trying to buy an old Avon and throw a self-bathing floor in, you're probably going to get away with something for like $1,200. But I think a brand new RMR, which isn't much more, is probably going to treat you better. But I mean, a brand new Moravia or a Sotar or a Wing or an Air, you're gonna get more life out of it over time. It's gonna, that this old Avon, that's great. You have a boat that's gonna work for a few years, but 5 years down the road, it's gonna probably be garbage. I mean, maybe not, but likely. So I'm always gonna say, if you can afford a new raft, buy a new raft, because you're buying a raft that is gonna last at least 10 years, probably 20 or more. It's a good long-term investment. Curious what rafts I like these days. I really like all of the US manufacturers. I think I like them. I mean, there's nothing I hate. We use a lot of Wings because I'm a firm believer in quality. So if I'm gonna I want to buy something that's gonna last a long time and not break. So I've owned a bunch of different manufacturers' boats, and things happen to them. They break. The Wings to me don't break. And so when a boat breaks, that's a problem for two reasons. One, it's you have a broken boat in the field, which you have to deal with. And two, you have to get home and fix it, which costs money and you have to deal with it. And so I've really had great luck with Wing. I think their manufacturing process is great and they're made to last. And so they're expensive. They're probably the most expensive, but that's what I like. But it costs money. And again, my take is the more you spend, long term, it's going to be a great decision. But I mean, Air is great. Their warranty is bomber. They take good care of their customers. They make great boats. Sotar does a great job. Moravia makes just a bomber boat too. They look super cool. I think RMR has a great place in the market where they're affordable. It's not. I mean, it's not going to last as long as those boats. I don't think. Maybe it will, but those PVC boats can fall apart over time. But for the price, I mean, it's a brilliant. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of choices, but if you have the money, I'd get a Wing, personally. Hopefully that answers your question there. I think that's all my questions for today. I'll kind of go through, see if there's anything else, Sean. Yeah, what's a Magna Blade though, Sean? Isn't that's the car? That's not a Sawyer blade. The Magnum is the it's not Carlisle. The other one. Sorry, I have to go back and look at the notes. It's the I think Carlisle makes the Magnum. No, Cataract makes the Magnum Blade. I see those a lot. I've used them a couple times. I see them a lot out in the field, like private boaters having them, and they kind of do get shark bites in them. And what Sean means by shark bites is just like a piece of it missing. If you hit a rock, just a piece breaks off, and you can still row it. Like I've rowed tons of blades with shark bites. Do I have any up here? I don't have any here, but I've run tons of boats with shark bites. There's blades of shark bites, and they last a long time. They do great. But as you get more and more shark bites, you have less and less of a blade. So I'd probably have, if you're on a budget, the Magnums are fine. The Duramax is fine. The Duramax get shark bites too, and so they're gonna wear down over time. But I'd go with one of those. But if you spend the money now, like the boats, and get a Dyne Light, it's going to last you a lot longer for the money. So over the course of 10 or 20 years, it's going to be more affordable because you're going to buy that Duramax or whatever, or the Magnum, and it's going to wear down over time, and it's going to have to get replaced, where the Dyne Light or something nice will last a long, long, long time. So I know this is probably super obvious, but I've just seen spending the money on getting the right thing pays off in the long term. In the short term, these things work. And if you just need something to get you down the river this year, next couple years, then, the Duramax and the Magna Blades are the way to go. So hopefully I answered all those questions well. If I didn't, leave a comment in the comment section down below. But yep, that's it for this episode of I got another comment here. Magna Blade, first 10 minutes. Yeah. I mean, you can still row it. That's the thing, is like you chip the blade and you're like, I chipped my blade. It's going to last. You can still row it with a chip for 5, 6, 7. I see people with beat up blades all the time. It's just not as good. And it's a bummer to spend the money. Let's say a Dyne Light costs, I don't know, whatever they cost, like $250. And, if you chipped a Dyne Light, you should be pissed, but you're not likely to. If you buy a Magnum for whatever they are, $150, and you chip it on the first 10 minutes, that's frustrating. And should kind of expect that. Like you're buying an inferior product. It's a product and it works, but the way that we use them in the field, the quality does matter. And I just see it over and over and over. And that's why I'm such a fan of stuff. And again, when you break something, you then have to fix it. And then it's your time. And how valuable is your time? You can swap a blade to other ore chip is on top. Oh, so that's smart. So if the chip is down, move it to the other side and it's pointed up, and so it's not as much. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Yeah. I mean, you can figure things out. And because I've seen people with oars that are just 5 or 6 of these, and they keep rowing it, and they get down the river. They're happy. They're having a great time. Life is fine. But those chips do happen. So, yeah. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Again, this is a thing I like to do on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. I'm busy for like the next 6 Tuesdays. And actually things are getting really busy for me. So we're not going to do a ton of live shows, but we will continue to do them as we want. Hey, Blair, thanks for being a member, man. You've been so supportive. Thank you for being just awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to keep we'll do the Friday show this Friday with Aaron. I probably won't be around for the next few after this week, Friday shows, but we have guests, and I think Aaron's going to keep doing things. So, yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Sean, for chiming in. It's nice to have somebody help me out here. Being on a live show by myself, it's awkward. I'm not used to it yet. So thanks for chiming in too and helping me out. Keep the thing rolling. And let me see. I think I have an ending for let's end this. still on, but I can't figure it in the broadcast. Come on, computer.